and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. This is going to be my most recent weekly wrap up. So first up, I want to talk about The Remaking, and this is by Clay McLeod Chapman. This was a cracking read. This is one of the books that I was like craving to pick up in spooky October times, so I did just that. This is one of the ones that I read when I was on my hiatus, and it was great. So this is a ghost story based on a ghost story based on a ghost story based on a ghost story. Basically, we have Ella Louise, and she is pushed out from her family. She is shunned, so she sets up a wee cabin in the woods, loves life, and falls pregnant, has her daughter Jessica. She sets up a wee apothecary type thing from her wee cabin in the woods, and someone goes to her for help. They accidentally took too much of the potion that she has given them, and unfortunately she loses the baby that she is carrying, and so Ella Louise gets the blame, and the local townspeople are not very pleased. So they decide that they are going to kill Ella Louise and unfortunately her daughter Jessica. And so in this wee town, it becomes sort of for the ghost story that they both haunt the town. And a wee boy who lives in this town is absolutely fascinated with this story. He decides that he's going to make it into a horror film when he's older. It's his dream, so he starts doing that. And then we're introduced to our other main character, really, other than Ella Louise and Jessica. So we meet Amber, and she is a child actress who's been cast to play Jessica in the film, and all sorts of creepy shenanigans start happening when she's on set, and we get a whole chunk of the book from her perspective, and then it flips and it is years and years and years later, and Amber is all grown up and they are remaking the film, and she then gets cast as Ella Louise because the director of the new film thinks that will just be like so cute and nerdy, and it would, fair enough. So she goes back to play Ella Louise and reprise a role in this film, and all sorts of shenanigans start happening again. And then we get a whole chunk of the book for later, and it's from a true crime / supernatural podcaster who likes to debunk the supernatural things and solve crimes and mysteries, and he tracks down Amber, now that she is a lot older, to find out what really happened on the sets of the films. So that just sounds like my perfect book, like really, to be honest. You get it from multi-perspective, spanning decades, and there's a podcast somehow involved. And I don't even listen to podcasts, really. I listen to a few. Like, I'm not a huge podcaster, but for some reason, if it's a podcast and a book, I'm right there. Like, I'm right there. This is magnificent. The author did an amazing job in making you really feel for Ella Louise and Jessica, and I really did almost root for them throughout the book, because what happened to them was horrible and it was absolutely no their fault. Likewise though, I really loved the character of Amber, so I didn't want anything bad to happen to Amber. And all the side characters that are in this book, directors, Amber's mum, townspeople, they're just so brilliantly developed, and like, it was just so engaging. This was just like a perfect horror book for me. It was scary in parts, it was so interesting, there was so much history when it came to the ghost story, and the fact that it was just like a ghost story inception was just chef's kiss good. It was a 5-star for me. I would highly recommend it, especially if you are really into horror films, because you get a lot of the sort of behind the scenes on set stuff, which I just found really cool. But I thought this was a phenomenal book, and this made it worth deciding to destroy my end of year TBR. Like, this book alone made it worth it. It was phenomenal. Then I read Library the Unwritten by A.J. Hackworth. So this was actually on my end of year TBR, and again, like, didn't want to read it when it was on my TBR, cancelled my TBR, decided to pick it up. Scumbag. That's the type of person I am. Like, that's how much I need you I am. But anyway, I'm so glad I picked this up because this was another phenomenal book. So we have Claire, and she's our head librarian, and she runs the library in hell. And so any books that are unfinished go to this library in hell, basically because if they are unfinished they can get a bit unruly and a bit demanding and wreak havoc in their author's life and in the real world. So they go to this special library in hell, and it's Claire's job to basically make sure no characters escape and no books start causing chaos, basically. And Claire is just an absolutely phenomenal character. She is like the black pansexual Mary Poppins that we all need in our life, and I just loved her so much. She is everything that I would look for in a female lead character. She was brilliantly written. On top of a phenomenally written character, the magic system in this book was fantastic. I adored learning about how all of that worked. There is hell and the devil and demons and creatures and black magic. Great. We spend some time on Earth where you get to see how all of their powers are able to be used on Earth, which is great. There are angels in this book in heaven. There is Valhalla and Vikings. Like, this was an absolute time and a half I had reading this book. Like, it was phenomenal. I couldn't put it down. I did it part audio, part physically, so that I could always be reading it, because it was just phenomenal. Again, like, everything I could have wanted in a fantasy book about a library in hell was in here. It was so phenomenal, and the characters were just amazing. We have Claire, but we have her sort of a wee band a gang. That's no words. We have her little gang. Didn't know if I was going for Band of Brothers or gang there, so I said Banda Gang. Like, that's a thing. It's not a thing, maybe. I've said it so many times. We have our wee band of characters, and they are great. The friendships, the relationships, love them all completely. Great. There was parts of the book where I actually got quite emotive. You know, when there's like your favourite characters in danger and shit, you're like, oh, am I gonna great? Like, am I gonna great? And I very nearly great. It was phenomenal. This is the first in a series, and usually I'm like, oh, what another first in a series, because you know what I'm like. But actually, I'm so glad this is a first in a series, because I need more. I rated it a 5-star, and that'll come as a shock to absolutely no man. It was great. Then I read Persephone by Caitlin Bevis. So this came about because me and Simon have been trying to finish off Once Upon a Time, and we were on, I think it's either season 5 or season 6, where they're in the underworld and Hades is involved, and I was like, oh my god, are we going to get like a Persephone for a Once Upon a Time perspective? And we didn't, so I was a wee bit gutted about it. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Once Upon a Time, but there we go. So he bought me this basically to, you know, satiate my Persephone cravings. This is a Persephone Hades retelling, except Persephone doesn't know that she is a goddess and is just living her best life, like going to school and going to gigs with her pals and being a normal teenager, and then all of a sudden, boom boom, this happens, that happens. Hades needs to save her, and as per every single retelling ever, she's stuck in the underworld with him, and then they fall in love. I know that somebody who isn't huge into romance really enjoying Hades and Persephone retellings is probably a wee bit like, where are you coming from? That doesn't really make sense. But what I really love about them is I really love, firstly, how the author portrays the character of Hades. I think that it is so interesting, and there's so many different variations, and I just love that everybody's working for like the same sparse source materials and everybody creates a completely different character. I find that really interesting. And then I really love how they describe the underworld, because again there's just so many different variations, and I just love that. And I care a lot less about their actual falling in love and their relationship. I just really like the time in the underworld and all the different gods and goddesses and stuff that we meet, and that's why I like the retellings. But this just didn't really hit the mark for me. It was very young, to the point where like Hades has like an Xbox and it's just like your standard everyday guy, and just didn't really hit the mark for me. In the beginning it was actually okay. It was quite young, but I could, like, hello, I read YA fantasy all the time, like I can deal with it being written a bit young, but then when the romance came into it, I was just like, oh no, like this is no for me. It was cringy at points to read, and awkward, and like if I'm getting second-hand cringe through a book, like, yeah, like it's just no good. Like if I'm cringing for you, it's probably no good. So I didn't really enjoy it. I think that the gods and goddesses that we meet, some of them are actually really interesting, but then their characters are just never explored. It's just sort of feel like name drop, moving on, as opposed to being like, here's this character, and then them actually being involved in the story somehow. So that was disappointing for me. And like I say, I'm just not here for a Hades who has like anime posters on his wall on an Xbox. Like, no my cup of tea. So this is a 1 star for me. I wouldn't recommend it particularly. Sorry Caitlin Bevis, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. So hopefully you're enjoying everything that you are reading at the moment, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.